We all know and love Alfred Pennyworth, the trusted butler of the Wayne family, but after reading this comic, I have reason to believe Alfred Pennyworth is indeed a psychopath. And if that's true, if this is really the case, how do you think Batman reacted? What is the tragedy that struck the Darkest Knight when he found out what Alfred truly was? The comic begins and we are met with some dialogue from Catwoman. She makes remarks about how Gotham feels rather strange as she drives across the city. While driving, she makes a sharp turn and stops the car as she reaches an alley filled with cats. No surprise there. Miss Kylie gets out of the car and after a weird conversation with this sorry excuse for a thug, she makes her way into a bar. And that's where we see our first surprise. Joe, chill!
I beg your pardon?
We see Joe chill as a bartender. A lot of core Batman fans will be confused as we all remember this guy as the guy who murdered Bruce's parents. But I mean, who would have thought snatching chains could be this lucrative? No wonder black people.
Wow.
Catwoman is pretty much surprised to see him. But don't worry, I understand your confusion. This is all foreshadowing, so pay close attention. After some small talk, she walks into a room and there we see Alfred. A bunch of other people troop in for what is assumed to be a funeral. A lot of villains actually show up. I mean, look at the Joker. He came for this funeral. But something weird is happening. They seem to be talking about death quite an awful lot. That's when it is revealed that Batman is dead. The big question on everyone's mind is, how did he die? What we get are essentially two different stories from Catwoman and our alleged lunatic Alfred Pennyworth. Then something weird happens. Catwoman narrates a story of how Bruce died, which should be normal in her own account at least, because she was there when Bruce died, right? Hold that thought, because then comes Alfred to give his own account of Batman's death. And this is where things get really interesting. We see a fascinating backstory belonging to Alfred. You see, before becoming a butler for the Waynes, he was a theatrical performer. One day, his dad, who at the time was the butler of the Wayne family, wrote a letter to his son, asking him to quickly come back home as he has been diagnosed of having terminal cancer. The letter also asked him to come back to be a butler for the Wayne family, as they seem to have had some kind of relationship. Sadly, by the time Alfred got home, his dad had already passed on. That's when he took up his new role. As time passed, he watched how Bruce and his parents genuinely loved each other. However, that would come to an abrupt stop, as we all know about the infamous Crime Street alley shooting that forever changed Bruce Wayne. Bruce was in shock for a long time, and the death of his parents eventually led him to train and learn as hard as he could. The years flew by. I was there the first time he rode out as a masked vigilante. I found him when he fell and sewed up his wounds, and then he began dressing like a bat. As an Englishman, I find it difficult to find the place that eccentricity ends and madness begins. But doing it made him happier than I had seen him in a long time. He smiled sometimes, and then the smile began to fade. He could not save everyone. He could not stop all the criminals. That's when Alfred had the idea that took Bruce's life. So what happened next was Alfred got in contact with his old acting buddies. Luckily for Alfred, they needed new acting roles. He told his crew about making the most unconventional criminals possible. All they had to do was play the role, and they completely bought this idea. In fact, they loved it. By all accounts, this is what is thought to have created what we know as Batman's rogue gallery. You know, basically his core villains in the story. It worked, but it wasn't enough. Something was missing from the puzzle. Someone was missing from the puzzle. What Bruce needed was a Moby Dick for his Ahab, a Moriarty to his Holmes, and regretfully, I did what had to be done. Here is where Alfred Pennyworth became the Joker. It worked like a charm. Let that sink in for a moment. The Joker we all know that has murdered hundreds of people in Gotham is Alfred. What exactly would you make of him after this information? What exactly would you call him? But it was only a matter of time before Bruce found out. And in due time, everything came to light. Bruce, for a brief moment, felt like his entire life was a lie. His biggest ally, his closest friend, was the biggest enemy he had all along. Alfred tried to use this moment to talk Bruce out of being Batman, but it fell on deaf ears as Bruce looked out the window and all he could see was the bat signal in the far distance. He had to go. And soon he arrived on the scene, and he has already convinced himself he will put an end to all these shenanigans. He approached the Riddler. I know about the game, Eddie. It's over. You can stop now. I'm not Eddie. I'm not Eddie Nash. I'm the Riddler. Batman tries to collect the gun once more, but is only met with the trigger being pulled. And that's how the Darkest Knight met his demise. That's how we got to where we are right now in the story. Or is it? Well, this comic showed a chain of events that all happened in Batman's mind as he reached a near-death experience, and he was knocked unconscious. If you were paying close attention, you would have already noticed the problem at the beginning of the video. You would have noticed the panel where Joker was attending the funeral, which should have been impossible. This might sound unrelated, but what if I told you about the time when Peter Parker stopped holding back, when Spider-Man began to use his full potential? You can find the video about him right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.